I've been sober 16 years, and I can tell you it wasn't willpower that kept me clean. It's the simple routines I build into my life. Evenings are when it gets hard. The house gets quiet, the day starts replaying, and the noise in my head gets loud. That's not weakness, that's just what happens when my brain doesn't have a new anchor to hold on to. And what I'm about to show you isn't complicated, it's just two things that I write down every night before I go to sleep. And there's science behind it, there's scripture behind it, and there's 16 years of staying sober behind it. And so let's just go ahead and get into it. To start, I want to show you why evenings are actually one of the most dangerous parts of our day. And real quick, if you are interested in learning about faith and recovery, it would mean a lot to me if you would hit that subscribe button. And I genuinely appreciate it. So nobody warned me about evenings after getting sober. Mornings, yeah, sure, we all talk about mornings, right? You have a morning routine, you start strong, you hit the day, right? All of that sounds fine. But evenings, that's for me, that's where things kind of actually get really hard. And for a long time, I just thought I was weak. Like, all right, something's wrong specifically with me. Not quite. It turns out there's actually a reason for it. By the end of the day, our brain is fried. The part that helps us think clearly, make good decisions, talk ourselves off the ledge, it's been running all day. And by evening, it is toast. And so the other part of our brain takes over. The part that runs on fear and old patterns, and that's when it hits for me, right? The shame from something that happened in my past or today at work, and the dread about tomorrow, about my job, the restless, crawling feeling that I can't shake. And see, if our brain spent years learning that using meant relief, it doesn't just forget that, and by evening it starts remembering it even more. So when I get tired, right, I start looking for a way out of that feeling, and that's just my go-to, right? I used to sit on the couch after dinner and just feel this kind of low hum of anxiety that I couldn't explain. Really, nothing bad was happening. The kids were around, everything was good, but I just couldn't settle in. And that feeling used to have an answer, right? I could just use or escape or do something else. Old sailors actually called this time the watch, right? The late night shift where there's low visibility, the crew's exhausted. That's when ships go off course. See, that's what evenings are for us in recovery. Our watch, and for a long time, I was going into it with nothing. No plan, no anchor, right? But Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. That's not just a nice verse. That's literally what we have to do in the evenings because nobody else is going to guard it for us. So now we know why evenings are the danger zone, but knowing that really doesn't fix it. What actually fixed it for me was building this simple routine, two things that I do every night that really help me. And the first one almost sounds too simple. See, gratitude gets talked about so much. It just sounds like noise, right? It's like another little self-help poster, and guys in meetings say it so often. It's probably for you has stopped meaning anything. And quite honestly, for years I rolled my eyes at it as well because in early recovery, everything feels flat and gray and nothing brings you joy. Being told to practice gratitude, it feels like being handed a Band-Aid when you need open heart surgery. But here's what I really needed to understand. Okay, gratitude isn't just a feel-good exercise. There's something real happening when we do it. Every time we consciously notice something good and write it down, our brain actually starts building the pathway that looks for good things. See, that's not a nice metaphor. That's how the brain physically changes because, right, left to itself, the brain doesn't do that naturally. It's wired to scan for threat, for danger, for what's wrong, and that wiring kept us alive as humans for thousands of years, but in recovery, it keeps us locked in shame and dread. So gratitude, real, specific gratitude starts to rewire that slowly. Not vague things like, oh, I'm grateful for my health, right? That's not it. It's more like, my kid laughed at dinner. My daughter laughed at dinner and I was actually present for it. Or the sun came through the window this morning and I actually noticed it. Or I set a listing appointment today and signed it, right? Specific is what makes it land. Specific is what the brain actually registers. I used to think gratitude was for people who already had it together, but it turns out it's one of those things that gets us there. Philippians 4:8, Paul tells us to fix our minds on whatever is true, noble, right, and lovely. And here's the thing, Paul wrote that from prison, okay? He wasn't naive. He wasn't having a good day. He was being strategic because he knew the mind follows where we direct it. And so this is what I do. I write down 3 specific things every night that I'm grateful for. Not because life is perfect, not because the day was easy, but because there's always something. And finding it is practice. And practice over time becomes the way that we see. And so that's the first thing, right? Ending the day with gratitude for what God did today, 3 specific things. But gratitude alone isn't enough because we also need to set our eyes on what's coming. And that's where the second thing comes in. And real quick, if you want to download the Purpose Blueprint, which is something I made to help men in recovery find their God-given purpose, the link is right in the description below. Most of us go to bed one of 2 ways. Either we're replaying the day, everything we said wrong, everything we didn't finish, every way we fell short, or we're dreading tomorrow before it even starts, and we wonder why we wake up already exhausted, already behind, already braced for the worst. That's not a sleep problem. That's actually a vision problem. And so the second thing I do every evening is write down 3 wins that I'm expecting tomorrow. Not just hoping for, not wishing for, but actually expecting. And look, this isn't some manifesting thing. I'm not talking about that. This is just intentional, specific, real. Something like, I'm expecting to have a solid conversation with my wife today, or I'm expecting to go to the gym, or even I'm expecting to stay grounded when something comes up hard. Small things on the outside, believable, but written down with intention. And here's why it works. See, our brain is always moving towards something. The question is, to what? If we go to bed rehearsing failure, that's the lens that we wake up wearing. When we write down what we're expecting to go right, we're literally priming the brain to look for it and to move toward it. Athletes do this. Surgeons do this. It's not some weird thing. It's actually strategic. I used to go to bed just waiting to fail tomorrow, just kind of assuming tomorrow would be another version of today. It would be difficult. Something wrong would happen. And, well, hopefully God will help me, right? But writing down 3 expected wins changed what I woke up looking for. And there's a verse that hit me differently once I started doing this. See, Jeremiah 29:11, everybody knows it. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. God has already written wins into tomorrow. The question is whether we're approaching the day expecting to find them or so braced for failure that we miss them entirely. Proverbs 23 says, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. See, what we rehearse at night becomes the lens that we wear in the morning. And here's what I love about these 2 practices together. Gratitude looks back and says, God was here today. Expected wins look forward and say, God will be here tomorrow. Together they close the loop. The day ends with evidence and the next day starts with expectation. That's not just a routine. That's faith. That's how we practice our faith. And honestly, it only takes me about 5 minutes. And so here's what I want you to take away from all of this. This routine is almost embarrassingly simple. You say, Cam, this is easy, right? 2 things, 5 minutes. What's the secret? A journal and a pen. There's no app. There's no accountability group required. There's no perfect circumstances that you have to be. Just us and the page and what we're choosing to notice. And I've been sober for 16 years, and it's not because I'm stronger than the next guy. It's because I stopped trusting willpower and started trusting a simple process. And so if the evenings are still the hardest part, try this tonight. Try it for a week, right? Try it for 30 days. See how long you can make, but just try it tonight. 3 things that were good today, 3 things that you're expecting tomorrow. and that's it. And then see what happens, right, to the next 24 hours. And, if you're wondering what my morning routine looks like, watch this video here, and I'll break down what I do every morning to make sure that my day starts off right.